You want to have prayer before we start?
Hey! We're praying.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day that we've had. Please be with us as we go over planning and what the program is and how to teach the kids. Help us to be more like you to the kids. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So we've gone over a lot of stuff today, and they kind of overlap, so I'm going to skip some of it so we can get more done in less time. So most of you here have planned your programs. Anybody do a yearly calendar that you turn in so you kind of know what you're doing?
We'll start it in January.
So the reason we ask for a yearly program is so that it's not for the benefit of anybody else, but for you and your staff. If the staff and the director don't have an objective as to what they're trying to reach, what they're trying to do, it's kind of chaos when you're going, okay, so what are we doing this week? What are we doing next month? Because part of what you need to turn in your monthly report is community service. What outreach did you do? You should be doing one every month, so you want to put that down in your calendar. And when are we able to go out? When I was the director, my schedule for Pathfinders and my life kind of what works for me. And so because I had kids going to UCA, so I needed to know their schedule so I didn't conflict with mine because I was the picker-upper on home leaves and stuff. So when you make a schedule, since you're the leaders or whatnot, you need to know what your life is like and what Pathfinders is, so that if something happens and they conflict, okay, so who can do this, or who do I need to get to do this? You need to have that idea. And so for me, and I'm one, you can ask most people who know me, I like to over-plan, and I need to know everything that's going to happen, and then I kind of plan for if this doesn't work out this way, whatever. I've got A's and B's and C's and whatever. And you need to have those because life doesn't always go the way you want. And so having a yearly schedule helps you to plan, if you have a theme, what do we want to accomplish this year? You need to have it because you can't say, okay, so we want to do this, oh, well, we have to do this, if you don't have that plan, it's not going to work out for anybody. And then the kids are like, what are we doing? Well, I don't know, we're going to wait for, when everybody knows what's going on, it benefits everybody. And part of that is to plan. So how many of you do the AY books, whether you're adventurers or Pathfinders? You have the friend, companion, all of that stuff.
Yeah, we're starting that.
So that's your investiture achievement. It helps to know how long, depending on how long you've been, you kind of have to go through the books if you're new. Okay, so this is what we need to do here and here, because some of them have specific things that they need to do to accomplish. So there's one where you've got to go out, like we talked about yesterday, for the Rangers. They have the serving communities. So you go out and you plan a project. If you don't know you're supposed to do that, you don't have that in your schedule to plan that, because you're going to take probably an extra day to do that, because they're supposed to go out and look and find something to do, make plans, and then to go out and do it. And a lot of times you can't do that in an evening. You got to be able to have a Sunday or something to do it. So you need to know what you need to plan everything. And then, so how many of you use a whole year calendar or 10-month calendar? 10-month? I think most people, they kind of plan from September till June, beginning of June, end of May, and then they have June and July, maybe August off kind of thing, because families like to go camping, whatever. But do you guys ever put in maybe we'll go camp? We live in Montana. I saw something that says you should go camping at least once a month. I'm like, that doesn't work well in Montana. So you might want to put in some summer activities to do. We would go and take our kids to the lake and have the parents teach them how to swim. Because, you have to have a lifeguard. So my husband's an ex-lifeguard, so we used him. But we had the kids learning how to swim and stuff like that, because there's not a lot of swimming pools in the winter. Kalispell, we're lucky to have one, but it's not always an option. So summer is the one time, and for all of them, it says you have to have the basic, or the beginner swimming. Not beginner swimming, basic water safety, that's the new one. So,
Question. The pins that come with these classes, do they get them after?
they get them at investiture.
Investiture.
Yeah,
Okay.
the pins they get at investiture.
Okay, just making
So-
sure I'm like,
And then if you have little kids, the adventurers, you have field trips. So you want to make sure, because they're supposed to go and visit a zoo or visit the farm or something for different things. So you want to make sure you find a good day that you can plan that. So there's a lot of different activities to do. You were saying something?
Oh, yeah, so for some of that work, it's up to you. You can definitely say that, you need proof of, but some of the parents have just started to hand out, so.
well, yeah.
That's a
it's
fight
like
that you have to decide if you
some-
wanna fight.
It's like some of those I know have already been handed out. So that's why I was asking, I'm like, do we take them back? Or do we just say, okay, you have the pin and now we have to have you work on these?
Basically.
Okay,
I wouldn't take them away, not from a kid.
no.
So you just make sure they complete the
Their-
stuff that they need to do.
Okay.
So the other thing you need to remember when you put on your calendar are the special ceremonies. And that's the reason why the conference needs it, because your coordinators are supposed to come and support your club and to be there for what you need. Wait, somebody has something to say over there.
Biting my toe.
Okay, so when we know when your investiture is, your induction, your Pathfinder Sabbath, it gives us a chance to kind of plan ours, and if we get something from another club that happens to be the same day yours is, we can say, okay, so we're going here, you need to go over there, so that we're representing all the clubs as much as we can. And we can't represent you guys if we don't know what you're doing. So we have induction, not induction. So it's for the new kids in your club, and most of the time, it is a candlelight ceremony. I was in a club, and Adventist Rest was we're gonna follow Adventist Rest, and so candles were not allowed in the church. So, and we had some issues with ours, so I bought the white candles, and they're all different levels, whatever. And then I covered the wick, and then I spray painted them the colors I needed. That was the easiest thing to do, and I don't have to worry about lighting a candle. Because sometimes they're difficult to light, especially the older ones.
We got, the battery powered ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when we have the class come up, they hold it, it has a little stand that's up already on the table. And so the kids go. and
Cool,
get
thank
it.
you.
So Adventurers has two options. They can do the candle one, or they can actually do, there's a tower one. Since I did both, I would do Pathfinders and Adventures all at the same time, so I had Pathfinders on one side, Adventures on the other, and it just made it so much easier than trying to do two different types of programs.
Yeah.
So that's the way some of the clubs are. It's just easier to do the candles. And yes, it's easier to have kids not burn themselves when you have the battery
Well,
operated
and a lot of
candle.
the churches have the no open flame
Yeah.
policy, so.
So there's that. That's not a big problem. And then it's nice that the ceremony has a script, so you don't have to make up anything. I like that. So the next one is, who does Pathfinder Sabbath?
We did.
Okay, I did not like what this one said about Pathfinder Sabbath, because for me, Pathfinders, we do Pathfinders and Adventures, but we do the entire service from beginning to end. Here, this actually said, what your pastor will allow your Pathfinders to do. I'm like, I don't even give them an option. I said, Pathfinders has the whole church service. We will, from start to finish, we got music, we got all this. No, we don't need any help. You know, we've got,
We've got a problem with that. Our pastor will not let us take over.
We did it though, that one stuff.
We sort of did.
so I've done where my Pathfinder Sabbath coincides with Pathfinder Investiture. We did that for a number of years because Darren would come for a graduation and we'd have him do music, and so we did it all at the same time because the kids wanted him to invest in it. And so when you hear kids, they're gonna want that. So we made it so that our pastor was only there once a week or once a month. I took his Sabbath all the time. So, but you work, when your kids are wanting something, that's what you do. So, I saw your hand up first.
Can we do, I know you said you did it with investiture. Can we do it for induction?
You can.
Okay. Because we have the induction first before the investiture. So
Well, the investiture's at the end of the year.
Well,
And Pathfinder Sabbath is usually,
At the beginning.
yeah, well,
For
February, January, February is when people usually do Pathfinder Sabbath.
we could do it in December.
So you can-
Pathfinder World Day, isn't it?
That's what we did. We did Pathfinder World Day and we did our Pathfinder Sabbath.
We do out of the, so we've always done it on the Sunday.
Well, I've always
September.
done mine, well, because in Northern California, Pathfinder Sabbath was February. And I was like, you can do it whenever you want, but for there, that was the specific, that's when they were, prepared for it. And I was like, okay. So it just kind of breaks things up, so you're not having too many things all at once. But I kind of like doing investiture and Pathfinder Sabbath all in one shot. You could do induction and Pathfinder Sabbath. It just depends on what your church will allow. as well.
But
So,
and speaking on that, when it comes specifically to a pastor, and I'm not saying that this will work, it's an idea. Sometimes what I've found is helpful is if they feel like they're still a part of something, that these kids are a little bit more willing to work with it. So for ours, maybe like, hey, can you make like a closing prayer and then like a thought of encouragement for the Pathfinders as they go into their new year or something like that. So they feel like they still get to make their point at the same time. And sometimes that can help them feel like, okay, I can let go of
Do you
some of
think
it.
that would work? Because Joel refuses to do anything with the kids.
It worked with me when I'm there, yeah, no problem. Cause like when we did that, that was my week. So I allowed them to do it because, hey, guess what? It's the greatest thing ever.
exactly.
So.
Because that's the goal, is to have these kids lead and take over anyway. Because the pastor's not going to be there forever. Everybody has someplace to go. So, the other one is investiture. And so those are what the kids have worked for all year long. And so then they've done the book work. So there's all those different things. For Pathfinders, they have the extra. If you do everything in the book, you get a special bar that goes with it. If you do just the minimum requirements, you get just a little round pin. So I tell my kids that, minimum is not an option. We're going full on out. And so they look at me like, seriously? I said, yes, and we can do it as long as you put in the work. And that's the thing, is you gotta encourage the kids to put in that work, because some of this where you have to memorize memory verses or you have to do all that reading, that's not fun. And so I would encourage my kids, okay, so if you do this week, next time we meet, I'll give you something. And so they'll get a little prize or a little snack or something. And that increases the motivation sometimes. But the goal is to get them to want to do that on their own.
Otherwise, you'll be like me and redoing it all because you never got the advanced portion of it, and you really want the advanced portion of it. So you can't find your original book, so you're just having to redo all of it.
I'm with you on that one. I got my Voyager and my guide, and I restarted, and I found my other one, and I'm like, oh man, I already did all this reading and everything else. I said, that's not fair. So yeah, you don't want to have to do it all over again.
And I always tell the kids, so I have some older teens, and they're like, I don't have time for this, and I'm like, do you take a shower? Like, yeah. Like, do you have access to something that can play the chapters you're supposed to listen to? Yeah. I'm like, put it on audio. Let it play for you. You can listen to the scripture while you're showering. No excuses
There
here.
are really no excuses except for the motivation that they do not have if they don't want to do it. It's like, we have that going on with my daughter right now. The motivation is not there. So every now and then, I said, you don't need to be on that or doing that. I said, you're done writing your little stories. Just go read Steps to Christ, because that's one of the things she's got to read. So, along with those, the calendar are those conference events. Now, in a well-established conference, in a perfect world, The events are always on the same weekend of the calendar year, so it's not moving around, so there's not, well, what weekend works, what weekend works, what weekend. It's all the same, so all you have to do is, okay, so we meet on the first Monday, or first weekend of May, and you write, that's fair, and this is Camp Reeves, the second weekend of September, and you just go through. Conference
Man,
events
we can't
should be
see
the same
July.
time we're working on it, but that makes your job planning your calendar easier, so then you're like, this whole month, question mark. Sometime there's Camp Reeves, I don't know what fair is. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. So
Well, especially
hopefully,
when you have some of your kids in public schools and different things like
Exactly.
that. They may not be able to leave on a Thursday or a Wednesday because, oh, there's camp. And that's why it's important to make sure that the conference has a calendar schedule where they're being aware of the state's usual start times for school.
Like
and-
Camp Reed this year? Starting the day, or finishing the day before school started.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not fun.
So there's other things that we've already talked about investiture achievement, but the AY honors, that's the other thing you want to plan because how long is this honor going to take? Who do I need to help? What do I need? And if you're not planning that till the last minute, then you're trying to go out and find people to help, or you're trying to find all the supplies you need, and sometimes it's not that easy. So it's always good to have that idea beforehand, because this says there's over 300 AY honors. I would put it way more than that now, because I'm pretty sure this one's very, very outdated.
And it's added to constantly.
Yeah, and there's new ones added to it every year. So some of them are easy, some of them are harder. How many know that there's levels to the AYs? Have you seen, they say skill level 1, skill level 2, and 3. So they say 1 is for friend and companion. 2, you can include the companions, but it's more explorer. And then 3 is for the ranger through Boy Guide. Yeah. So it helps to think of that.
It's also about hopefully competency in that system. You're not going to take somebody who's a friend that's never welded before and say, here's some MIG and your ground clamp and 2 pieces of steel and protective. Here you go.
That's why I say,
Like,
when you have
it's-
friends and companions, you're gonna wanna try to look for some of those number 1s, whereas you have ranger, voyager, guide, you're not gonna have them do a number 1 because they'll be done so quick and they're like, I'm bored. You want them to be challenged, so you're gonna want them to do the little more harder stuff. So that's why they have skill levels on them.
Now, if you have somebody who just came in and did new friend and companion, they might have to do some of them to get the other honors. If they're Camp Skills 1 and 2,
Yeah.
there are certain ones that are, they're stepped. You have to have this one to get this
That's what
one.
I'm finding out.
Yeah. And
Well,
it-
and it's important because especially with 1, 2, 3, 4 camping skills, you start with, how to make a fighter, let's safely
Easier
fire, putting together a tent, and then you get more and more, where you're like, okay, now we're gonna build an oven, and we're gonna bake some things, and
We're gonna build a tripod to cook over, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna filter water with a gravel and charcoal and whatever. Yeah.
It becomes a little bit more like in depth, and you also have to plan that.
So then we talk about club meetings and how to plan it, like how long you're gonna take evening exercises, drill and march. And it really is up to what works for your club. They've got some weird things in here. I was like, nobody does that. We used to meet Wednesdays from 6 to 7:30. So your time frame is short, so but now we meet every other Sunday, the first and third Sundays, and we have 3 hours. So then you kind of rearrange how long you take to do this and this and whatnot. But you find what works for your club. There's no one way to do it.
The thing to think about with the 3-hour ones, break it up into different portions so that you have like opening ceremony, a little bit of book work, marching and drill. Come back in, do the last little bit of book work, and then or an honor or something that.
So
breaks
yeah,
up
what we
so
do
that
is
it's-
the opening ceremony, so then we do drill and march, and then we do the book work, and then they split, then they come together and do their honors. So,
as long as it works.
but it works the way it is, and then the adventures, they're on their own after drill and march, and they go and do their own stuff, and so. But you find what works for you, because it doesn't, what works for me is not gonna work for your club, and it's not gonna work for your club. You've gotta figure out how to make it work.
So you do adventure and
We
Pathfinders.
we meet together,
Okay.
and we do the opening exercises, we do worship, we do drill and march, and then the Pathfinders go and do their book work, and we go do our book work and honors and stuff, and then they'll do their honors. So that way, because we only meet twice for 3 hours, so it's the only way we're gonna get anything done. But like, so the reason why my family didn't come this weekend is because they're handing out bags tomorrow to do can collecting that they'll go back and pick up on Sunday next week. So we're like, we can miss the handout of the bags and be there for the collection. But, so we won't have an actual meeting. That will be our meeting, is just dropping them off and then picking them up. And then the weekend after, we'll be putting the boxes together and delivering them. And then after we're done with that, we'll have our induction service. So we will be very busy. But it's what works. It's because we have a family that actually drives an hour and a half now, because we meet in a different place. So they actually drive an hour and a half just to be with us. So we try to make it easy to do certain things. And 2 of them are being inducted as Pathfinders. So the mom and the daughter. So it's kind of nice. All right. Maintaining the Pathfinder Club. So we need to remember that we have spiritual objectives. We want to try and encourage attendance, because it's not fun to plan things and then have half of them not show up. I hate when that happens, because we have a small club. So when you have a small group of kids and you've got something planned and then nobody shows up, it's kind of like, well, I did all that work. So we did a 90% trip last year. So we had a poster board, everybody's name, and then attended different things that or if we went out and did some community service or whatever it was we did, and they got points for that. And then anybody who got 90% or above, we took them and we went to the water park in Kalispell, Columbia Falls out there. So, it's up to your club on what you want to do to encourage enrollment for the kids to keep coming. So you want to try to encourage them some way, but sometimes kids are like, oh, I want to go do this today, I want to do that. But part of Pathfinders, when you commit to something, you at least have to see it out through the year. And that's what I try to encourage in my kids. It's like, you signed up for this, and there's some parents who are like, oh, we're done, we're not. And that's a problem. But if the parents and you work together and say, hey, you committed to this is a year-long thing, when we're done in May, June, whenever it is, then you can decide if you want to come back or not. A lot of times kids say, oh, I don't want to do it anymore because something happened. And it's not really something that affects the club, it's just something between them and another person. And so you don't want them to quit just because I had a bad day. I have lots of bad days. There's no reason to quit. All right, so then there's, what I like to do if I can is send a letter home, kind of notifying parents what we're doing. Because sometimes I always give out a calendar at the beginning of the year, but then they're like, well, what is this? Or what is this? So I send out a letter, kind of notifying, be aware this is coming up, they need to do this and whatever, and that helps. All right, I'm done with that. So then they talk about your equipment, making sure that stuff is in order. If you go camping and find something, oh, I was supposed to replace this or whatever, now I've got no water because the spigot thingy is not closing or not turning on. You don't want that to happen. So, apparently that's happened before.
The fact that the Kalispell Pathfinder group has survived for as long as they have, that small of a trailer, baffles my brain.
The
So
fact
make
that we have survived that long with the spigot being that way on our water container without somebody seriously getting burned.
The other thing is if you have access to a bulletin board, or if you can put a bulletin board up, show the church what your kids are doing. Take pictures and put them up and say, hey, you know, because you can't get up front all the time. And we always did a slideshow at the end of the year, but what about some of the things, you know, say, hey, look at what we've done. We went and did can collecting and handed out these baskets. You know, you can do all sorts of things with a bulletin board, and it just helps. And the kids like to see themselves in pictures. Parents love it. So,
Could you do tri-boards instead? That way you can take them up and down?
yeah.
Because I know where our bulletin board is, no one would ever notice it because it's back by the copier. So it's back in a corner, back on.
Yeah, you don't want anything hidden. You want it up front and personal,
Yeah,
so
so-
everybody can see it.
So tri-boards where I pop the table.
It needs to be next to that TV that's out there. That should not be in the back corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
One at a time, look at this.
I know. I'm writing all down in my brain.
There's gonna be massive changes in this church.
No, really?
All right, the next thing we're talking about now is the learning styles and how to teach children. So instead of having me sit here and talk a whole bunch of stuff because I don't know it all, I want to know what your experiences in teaching, what works, what doesn't, what you've noticed. So there's a couple of things I want to hit real quick. So it says the way children learn, the passive learning activities, reading, listening, and observing, and active learning activities, problem solving, case studies, role playing, building, creating, and dissembling. And so we have three kinds of learning abilities, okay? So we have visual learners who learn just by watching. So how many of you are visual? Okay, how many of you are auditory, where you listen and you get it? How many of you are, can you say it, Darren? Tactile?
Hands-on.
I'm also, so you can be more than one. So I'm two. I don't like the audio thing. It makes me fall asleep. But my parents are deaf, so I do sign language. So I have to do something with my hands, and I have to see it. So I'll watch it and I'll do it. I can't, but listening, that doesn't work for me.
I like to audio, listen to it, but then I also like to do it, like cement it in my brain.
Interpret?
Yeah.
Interpret?
It's been a while. Interpret.
All right, so,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I was like, it's like, it looks like you're trying to do make.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your experiences with different teaching the different styles so that everybody, because I'm like, this is just words. Everything's different when people are teaching different things.
Really, you have to hit it a little bit of all of it. So you need to really like integrate different things. You have the audio, you have the stuff for those visual learners, and those for the hands-on as well. And when all three of those senses are going, it's going to be a good fit. You're able to at least get most of the kids, and the kids engage too, because it's different. Each one is something different that you're having to do.
Yeah.
What we did with, what we're doing now with the artist honor is, he will start with an experiment. Like last week, it was a rainbow bridge. So he did all the colors and put his, and as he was doing the honors, he'd look and go, oh, can someone tell me what color the napkin is now? Oh, great, can you, hey, why don't you so-and-so go and watch this one. And so it was engaging the kids because every once in a while he'd go, hey, who's watching my colors? And they're like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be, you know. As they're doing the paper mache, and he was telling them how to, so the tactile part was they had to dip it in
The glue.
and then take it off and then cover it. And then figure out how to move the balloon without having it fall over. Collapse and think, and they did great. That was the most engaged and sit still class. I had them like, how are you getting them to sit? Because 2 weeks ago, they like popping off like little rockets.
Somebody fed him ice cream.
I'm like, what? How did you do this?
Especially with the younger kids, they tend to strictly be with like the visual with the hands.
Yep. Yeah.
No, they need something to kind of engage them. If it's just auditory, then you're gonna
We
lose
lose
a
them.
lot of the younger kids.
I don't think we have any audio learners in our class.
Yeah, and that tends to be sometimes
The
a
younger ones
thing.
tend to not be auditory. They're more visual and hands-on. Most of them are hands-on at that age. So. Anybody else?
For me, when I teach specifically honors, I do like to do, like you said, try to have a little bit of fun with it. To have the kids that really focus on, hey, wait, there's something here. You have the kids that are like, no, wait, I want questions. Ask me a question. I want to think. I want to use answers. And then you do have the people who they get too antsy sitting still for a little while. And so I try to have all of it, like, okay, we'll do this for a little bit. Okay, now let's go. And I break it up, especially like I was talking about the rescue honor. There's a lot of different portions. We talk about electrical safety, rescuing somebody from potential electrical issues. So we stop and we say, hey, you know what? We have a scenario. This is it. How would you deal with this scenario? How would you help the person and rescue them in this kind of situation? And so taking those different breaks and then coming back to the board and be like, okay, now we're gonna have some questions. Sometimes the questions, especially with paperwork and stuff, kids can get really bored with really quickly and they're like, oh, this is just endless. But if you break it up into 2 or 3 questions, then we move on to a new topic where it gives them a chance to, hey, still engage in the questions that need to be answered, but then move on and still have some activities, movements, help that brain calm down a little bit.
The other thing that we found worked pretty good with ours is that we, as we're going, we bring in a big small candy. We've done high shoes and
We brought up high shoes the one time. We had a lot of questions to get through. And I was like, okay, the honor required them to listen to a presenter or somebody talking about something. And I was like, okay, I get it. Sometimes when somebody drones on, it can be very boring, but I need you guys to pay attention because your answers are in this, okay? All of them are in there. And if you pick them out while it's going on, like the person who tells me they know the answer, pay attention to your question because it's pretty much done in order. And I was like, I'll toss you a high shoe. I have never seen them more than like, they're trying to beat the next person in answering the question, and it was such a neat class to do because they're like, no, I got it, I have the answer. And so, yeah, that was a neat one.
Builders this year, and so there's a lot more memory verses and stuff like that. So what I've done is I printed it out. You need to practice it at home, but one, we looked at it in the Bible, so we had to find it in their Bible. And then they read it out loud, and then I read it, so that you've got the audio, you've got the visual, and they had to look. So it kind of helped. So I haven't seen my kids in a few weeks, so we'll see how this turns out. But yeah, hopefully they learn. But there's different ways of reaching the kids, and so it's just kind of, especially when you have a smaller group, it's easier to find who does well with what. But in a bigger group, if you've got like 5 or 6 friends, it's going to be kind of hard to figure out and try to please everybody. And sometimes what works one day doesn't always work the next time either. So you just it's kind of being on your toes and trying to figure things out. And sometimes
Change it up.
Yep, got to change it up sometimes.
Yeah, for the scriptures, I taught some of the songs. I was like, oh, I always memorize by song. It's much easier for me to memorize long bits if it's a song. And so I was telling some of the kids, and they're like, well, I don't have a song for this one. I'm like, I'm not sure. We can either come up with something or find one that's already been.
Just do things.
And so when I showed some of the kids, we're like, well, I didn't make a song for this. We need to make a song for this so I can memorize it. So then we did the hymn honor part of it is making a song out of some scriptures.
Okay.
And so we sat down with the kids and they're like, okay, we're gonna come up with a song. I'm like, okay, choose first. We'll come up with a song. We'll figure it out.
Anybody else have anything else to add?
I noticed that in our club, our kids learn differently with in different instructors. Like, the kids learn differently with me than with, that they're learning with Tim. Even though we're doing exact, we have the same structure. It's just, he's more
It depends on how they
facial
relate
expression.
to that
Yeah,
person, so they relate to everybody differently.
Yeah, he's more facial expressions and Bill Nye the Science Guy kind of thing. Where I was, okay, hey, we're building animal houses. So it's like, they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, you got the fun one. you get the science experiments. I don't, yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, it's nice too to over-plan with
Yeah.
it, with different things, because I found that sometimes things that I think are gonna take a while, don't, and they like fly
They fly
through
through it.
that, and you're just like.
That happened to me once.
Yeah, that me too.
Once.
Like,
Yeah.
never again.
Yeah, you always plant, that's what.
Especially with the younger kids, when you
Yeah.
think, oh, this is gonna take a while, and then they're like, now what do we do? And I look through the, oh, I have this ready, let's do this.
Yep.
I don't like having to look through the book, I like to have the extras and like, well, if I don't do it this time, then we'll finish
We'll
it
do it
next
another
time.
time.
Yep.
So that's the other thing with learning styles, is kind of learning where your kids are at. So we have 2 boys that are on the same level. One is 8, one is 10. Do I put that 10-year-old up in Pathfinders? No, because he's in 2nd, 3rd grade. So you want to make sure that, yes, you're going to have some of these kids who are actually older, but if they can't comprehend and can't do that stuff, even though they want to be in there, who are you benefiting? You're not benefiting anyone, because they can't achieve it. And now you've got, well, for me, there's only 2 of them, and so he's going to be alone. But if this one can't achieve, what they're doing at that level, you're not benefiting him at all. It's going to actually probably create some learning problems beyond, because then he'll feel like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good at this. And that's not our job. And so I know, because he did ask me, I turned 10 in December, and I was like, you're at where you are because of what you understand. And I said, you've got all your friends in Pathfinders, you're here with them all the time. But I think Billy needs somebody to help him, and you guys work really well together. And he goes, we do, don't we? I'll stay with Billy. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, and sometimes that, especially if you have a Pathfinder or a newer mentor, sometimes that's a conversation you can have with the parent. Can't say that every parent's necessarily wants to know where their child is, but same thing for mine. When we were in Colorado, I had a director try to convince my 9-year-old that she needs ready for Pathfinders. My 9-year-old's not ready for Pathfinders. There's too much concentration that she's not ready for. There's a lot of reading that she's not quite ready for. To me, she does good at reading, but she doesn't like reading at all. And so she would struggle in those areas. And I just like watching my own child. I'm like, she's not ready for that. I do think that she's getting to the point where she will be, but she's just not quite there yet. So I would push. And there's some kids at 9, some clubs do 9 and above. Some do 10, some go by grade, where they start at like 5th grade. But yeah, it's definitely understanding that every child can learn different.
Yeah. So you want to be able to hit those levels where they're at. So, all right. Anything else? All right.
Something I just found out was our last auditor was getting fidgety and whatever else. Take them outside, we play like sharks and minnows, just run.
So we don't have enough kids for that, but if I notice my kids are getting fidgety, I'm like, okay, let's go run laps.
Yeah, something physical,
Something to get them out, moving,
and then usually by the time they get back in, they're just like,
they mellow out. Yep, exactly. So that's the other thing about learning and teaching kids, knowing when to stop and give them a break. Because you can have 5 10-year-olds, and maybe 2 of them can sit and listen, and the other ones need to go out and move.
Especially the boys.
especially boys.
When, what we've started doing with our guys and our club is, I will cut them, like, I'll ask Tim, or Tim will give me a clue word of, hey, yeah, let's wrap this up. Okay, that's my key word to say, okay, guys, go play Simon Says in, like, last week, go quietly down the hallway in the sanctuary while we clean up. You know, and that was fine. Down in the foyer, you know, go down there with some of the other Pathfinders until we were good. Because I'm like, if I can get them out of the room and moving 5 minutes, 10 minutes early, and we're done, I'd rather than that than have them be underfoot when I'm trying to clean my room up.
But it's good to get them to help clean up too.
Well, yeah, but
So-
we wanted them, they'd already helped clean up what they could. It was mainly picking up hanging trying to figure out how to hang the balloons.
So that they would dry and not be stuck to a surface.
Yeah.
What you should do is you hang them first and then you wrap them.
We thought about that after.
So, yeah.
We thought about that level. Like, we should have done it this way. Alright, I did it that way.
Anybody else? All right, let's have prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for learning how to deal with the kids, to teach the different learning styles and how everybody has different experiences and we can learn from them. Thank you for everything tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
I did think of one thing.
What?
After. How, as a director, do you handle your own kids? Because
Sometimes you have to let somebody else do it.
okay, because it's like, because that's what I've started doing. Because Daniel comes with me, my husband, and I go, hun, I can't be director and mom. Can you please?
Yep,
that.
sometimes it's just better to let somebody else handle it.
Because I'm just like,
That's when you have someone like Mr. Darren that takes care of it.
well, Mr. Darren, can you come to my shop next week on Monday? I think we're painting. In 2 days, can you show up? We're painting balloons. We're painting my. It was easy to. Cheat them on their dad or on another adult when I was teaching. Now that I'm not teaching, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'm available to help you. But I'm like, oh.
really early night.
Praise God. Hallelujah.
We got some sleep, maybe.
Don't die.
I mean, that's important.
Medical, don't die. If you aren't qualified, don't move them. Call somebody else. No, that was Truth Solar for the paramedic. You don't have one? Call 911. There you go. Everything's done.
Yep.
Let's go. And no matter what my license says, I cannot treat you without a doctor. I cannot treat you. I may be a medical assistant, but I cannot work out without my doctor. I cannot work without a doctor.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. I cannot work without
We're gonna pray.
a medical doctor above me.
And we're going to have prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for all that we've learned. Continue to be with us and help us to learn more. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, I'm going to kind of go over some of medical, then risk management and child safety. In some of those areas, the NAD kind of likes us to go over a lot of just information. So I kind of have it in question format, so you guys can tell me if you think A, B, C, or D would be the correct answer to some of these. We can kind of get through some of the nitty-gritty information kind of quickly. But to start out, I became a EMT when I was 18 years old. And then I did classes to advance further on in that throughout my time working at the ambulance barn in Plains, Montana.
Cool.
And have since been basically medical volunteer since working around with him. Military schedule did not afford me the time. A lot of EMT or fire, depending on if it's connected, tends to be at minimum 12-hour schedules, usually more like 24 hours. And so that became kind of difficult. So I ended up doing a lot of volunteer stuff for that. We're going to go over first what you think might be the top 3 childhood-related illnesses that can lead to death.
RSV?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Sickness?
Top 3 childhood-related illnesses
Oh,
that can
okay.
lead to, fatal consequences, death. So, kind of connected to RSV, asthma is going to be one of your number 1. Number 2 would be allergies. And number 3 is going to be diabetes. For, I think several of you in here, you know that when we're dealing with children, that's usually going to be diabetes 1, which is a disease that a child gets from birth. Is usually found. It's where the immune system will mistakenly attack and destroy cells, and that causes the system to fight against itself. There are some cases, although they tend to be very rare, of diabetes 2 in later adolescence. But it can happen, but how they're treated are both very different, or can be very different. A lot of them can be very similar. In diabetes, you want to look for agitation, lethargicness, potential loss of consciousness. These people also potentially have, if they're having an episode, a sweet smell to their breath, or it can smell like alcohol in some of these cases. When you're dealing with diabetes 1, in these kinds of cases, if you were to have an episode and you know a child is diabetic, it's written on their health information, which we're going to go over in a little bit. The treatment for this, if you had been given this, would be to administer sugar if possible in these cases, because
this is usually going to be low. Most of these have a pump that's installed for them. It's going to give them regular. Some of them monitor, some of them don't necessarily. If they miss a meal and their blood sugar gets really, really low, so then you can have some of these issues. Some of them will carry a glucose gel that can be given. If so, it would be rubbed usually on the inner cheek and lower gum area on the side of the mouth. You also want to make sure that in these cases that the child can swallow. You don't want to have any choking incidents either in these cases. And then when we're dealing with these issues, this is one of the things that you would go over with the parents in kind of detail. Like, understand you want your child to be a part of Pathfinders. How do you handle this? What is their schedule? Are they usually good at monitoring it themselves? Go ahead.
Orange juice?
Yeah, juices are great. Any kind of liquid sugar.
Okay.
If you don't have access to anything else, liquid sugars can be great.
Okay.
If you're going to have a liquid sugar and if the child is responsive enough, if you can get them to hold it underneath their tongue for a little bit before swallowing, that can help a little bit as the absorption, get the sugar into their body fast. In most cases, these are going to immediately be, let's get them to a healthcare professional. It's something you need to discuss with the parents. Some are going to want them immediately taken in. And this is not necessarily, we're taking care of mostly like an acute issue. Like this is immediately happening right now. You're trying to make sure we're doing life-saving measures. And then, we're not necessarily fully trained to or equipped in those cases to handle some of these issues that may arise, but we're doing our best with what we have. If you are at your own functions, you would then carry your own kind of first aid kit. And then the child would need to bring, like I said, medications if they have them. At camporees and other events, they also usually have a slightly more specific kits. They'll have extra things added to theirs. So they can be, so sometimes I know at Gillette they have a full first aid team that work 24/7. And they have some really great professionals that work tirelessly to provide some of this support to kids. The next one would be allergies. Oh, one of the things I wanted to go over, if they have a glucose monitor, typically for diabetic 1 children, about 90 to 130 is going to be considered their okay pre-meal, and then potentially like after or at night, a 90 to like 150 is going to be considered an okay area for them to be in. So that would be something like you can just make sure they're taking their blood sugar, make sure they're aware of it if you have a child that is doing this. Sometimes we get really busy and just kind of remind these kids like, hey, pay attention to this. Same with allergies. So for allergies, there's going to be a wide, you have some kids who are just like seasonal allergies, you have your grass and your pollens and things like that, and that can go along with a little bit of asthma. So they may have like an inhaler or to dilate and breathe. For some of them, maybe food allergies, which can be very different. And then you can have even some of your sensitivities that turn into allergies. More specifically, things like dyes. Some of the dairy allergies can be a sensitivity to allergy stuff. But you're going to have hives, usually raised, itchy hives, swelling of the face, the mouth, the tongue. They may say they feel like it's hard to swallow. That could be a first sign of something. Watery eyes, itchy redness, different kinds of things that you'll start to recognize in those instances if you're around that. If you know that a child has a severe allergy, they usually are equipped with an EpiPen. That is needed to make sure that comes with them everywhere you go. And all the staff need to be aware of how to use it. I have had a healthcare professional who uses backwards and stuck themselves in the thumb instead of or they were supposed to. So let's kind of make sure everybody's just kind of aware, how is this done? How do we handle this kind of situation? And then immediately, somebody needs to be calling the ER, they need to go in this instance and be seen. This is a Band-Aid, for lack of a better term for it. It is potentially temporary. So getting them to a hospital where they have more stuff that they can use to keep them without being intubated. Yes.
If you are too far from an ambulance, like say you're at a camp out and you're 2 hours, 3 hours from the nearest ambulance, do we call Lifeline in? How do we do that?
Then it depends on the situation.
Okay.
And then we have to say, is this an issue where we have life-threatening in short amount of time? Can I transport them with permission from a parental? Can I transport them to the hospital faster than waiting for an ambulance to get here and then to get back to the hospital? In those instances, you can even call in and say, hey, like I'm gonna be, this is how far I'm out, this is what I'm dealing with, you can be prepared ahead of time.
Okay.
And in those instances, yes, if say that it becomes life-threatening, so you're still gonna have to call 911, that's not your choice. That will be decided by the person who receives your phone. So they get to make the choices of who sends out. If you are in a location, it is considered life-threatening in a short time, they usually will send something like that, but it could be case-by-case situation. And then the other one was asthma. So with asthma, a lot of us has probably dealt with at least a little bit, typical wheezing, coughing, chest tightness, difficulty breathing. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's like a tickle at first. Oh, it's a tickle, and it's okay, I'm just coughing a little bit. It can build very, very quickly and become serious rather quickly. And like I said, the typical, for some like allergies or inhaler, or asthma would be treated with an inhaler if they have it. Be aware that we are not to administer anything without parental permission. So you need to have written permission that, hey, and when this is added a page to your form, so whether this, you can have this, and then you can have like an extra area where you can have them write information, and that's something you want to include, so that they have the chance to give you more detail, either express permission to help them administer a inhaler, if they're having difficulty with it, those kinds of things, because we are not to necessarily treat if we don't have the training or give them medications. So, kind of go back to, has anybody heard of what the Good Samaritan law is? Okay, some of us recognize that. Okay, so there's actually going to be two. You have the Good Samaritan law, and you have the moral law, or sometimes also known as the duty to rescue law. And then this is going to vary by state. But the Good Samaritan law is to protect somebody who potentially feels that they need to do something to prevent loss of life. And so then it protects them against legal recourse coming after them saying, hey, maybe you didn't do enough. So I had an issue, we had two sisters that were rafting down the river, and they had not known how to swim prior to it. They were not wearing life vests, and they didn't come through the river. They were both unconscious, and the same life-saving procedures were performed on both sisters. One was able to be revived, and unfortunately the other wasn't. And so, because in that instance, obviously the parents are grieving, and I feel really bad for them. But at the same time, we need to be protective too, and that we were trying to do our best to potentially save somebody's life. And unfortunately, that case did end up going into court. And that's why we have some of these laws. The other side of it, some people get scared of it and they're like, well, I just won't do anything. If I don't do anything, I can't get into trouble. And this is where the duty to rescue comes in. There is also, and this is usually mostly in criminal cases, But there is a law that they can bring in and say, well, you had the ability to and you chose not to morally go help somebody. That was your choice. There is still some protections against that. So for me, I specialized in swift water training. But for each of them, we have different like areas that we specialize in. And for me, I did not potentially want to do ice rescue. That was I don't feel comfortable with this zone. And so especially if you have the children, you'll notice that some people don't do some of those types of rescues because you have somebody who's potentially, reliant on you for support. And so I'm like, I can't take my own life into my hands. I have children that are relying on me. So, but those are the kind of, just to be aware that there are potential legal repercussions that could come up. And in most cases, as long as they do not find that you did something completely off the wall, you're going to be covered in those instances. So we went kind of over the...
Got a question here, Christie.
Yes,
Like,
sorry.
I just wanted to add with that, like kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It only covers you to a certain carry of being on shift.
Yeah.
So like I can't go out and do like breakfast so everything get away with it.
Right.
Like CPR, that's where it protects people because people would crush their chest and then they sue them because they got hurt, whatever. That's what it kind of protects you.
Yeah, and that's what the life threatening.
You can't start IVs and start throwing drugs.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm trained, I
Don't
can do
go to the
this. Yeah.
movies and take the pen out and stuff in the throat. Don't do that.
Come on.
Yes.
So,
And I mean,
as far as
especially-
it is, it might not be.
Especially in Pathfinders or Adventurers, we are there to make sure they get to care. But that's basically where a lot of our job ends. Support them, daily medications that they may potentially have to take as long as we have parental permission. We don't give them the medication, we must watch them, make sure they take their medication, remind them, those things, but it's not necessarily our job to administer.
Okay. Real quick on that
yes.
one. Say we're having a club meeting and one of the kids passes out and needs CPR. Do we start that?
Okay, so this is the
Then call?
This is the important part of having like CPR and first aid for your staff. And the reason is because just because somebody's passed out doesn't mean they need CPR. And so if you take the CPR classes, you'll notice they'll say, hey, go up, assess breathing, assess circulation, try to do maybe even a sternal rub. Are they responsive to pain? Those are the kinds of things you want to be aware of before you start. Then yes, if somebody were to potentially not be breathing and not have a heart rhythm, then you want to start CPR. If you are not the person that's trained in it, you can easily ask, hey, is somebody here trained in CPR? I need somebody to help. There are many jobs in life-saving, so you can have somebody like, hey, I'm gonna start CPR, I need you to go call 911, I need somebody to see if there's an AED here locally, and then you can do that. I'm in the potential looking into becoming an instructor for those. Trying to see all the requirements for state of Montana on that, so that I could potentially help get that a little bit more widespread to staff members. But yeah, you definitely need to assess the scene before you start to do anything like that. A loss of consciousness.
They could just
They're going to have to go to the ER.
Okay.
They lost consciousness, you don't know why on your, and legally you need to make sure they get to a healthcare professional and make sure there's not a serious issue going on.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, we've assessed them, they need it. Do we call parents first or do we start CPR first?
I would do both. Maybe see
Okay.
if you have a staff member that can call
Make
the
sure that-
parents,
yeah.
have somebody go ahead and, whether you choose to take them in or whether you have an ambulance called,
Okay.
depending on the situation. I mean, if you have a child that lost consciousness and then immediately regained consciousness shortly after, then you could call the parents and say, hey, this is what happened, I would like to take them into the hospital. Then you can make that assessment, like,
Okay.
I can maybe drive them in if you're comfortable with it. That's going to be a conversation with the parents.
Okay. It's like,
We would say, like, on that note, like, we have, one of our kiddos that doesn't do well with hearing about blood or other things, and she'll lose consciousness. And just.
I'm trying to avoid any of that kind of.
And so
Specific.
she'll just lose consciousness, but she comes back, but you still, I mean, it's not anything that's.
We have to call that.
Yeah, and if a parent has warned you,
Yeah.
So growing up, I had where if you stand up, I have very low blood pressure, and so when I stand up sometimes, it goes way out. And actually during trainings, they would put mask pants on me. They take them and they blow them up. It's what you use in like crushed casualties. And because my blood pressure was low enough to not really be affected by them, they'd stick them on me and just kind of like way up to kind of understand how it works. But for me, if I were to pass out, I'm gonna come right back to. That's usually I get up, ooh, okay, I need to sit back down. But there can be different reasons. Some people have low blood sugar and they can pass out. It might not necessarily be a diabetes issue, it's just hyperglycemia. And you may be told by a parent, you know, that can be very normal for them. This is why it's important to have that kind of conversation. And if they do put in and they don't give you a whole lot of information, that's your job to go and say, hey, you said there's an issue. I'm okay with that, but I need a little bit more information. How do I handle this? How do you want things handled, etc. So we have any questions on that? I'm trying to be cautious about it. Okay, so this is kind of what we went over. This is one of what you need to have from each of your staff members. This is specifically the portion where they do the learning certificate of child safety. This is something you need to carry with you to all events, just like your medical release form. All events. If they are with you, this needs to be added, okay? Specifically at your NAA divisions, they will ask for it. So you're gonna have to ask for it.
I need to get my mind turned up then.
So
So it'll
my
be this
binder's
one.
real good. Like you put all of them in here. Here's all of the staff,
Yeah, just have a little for it.
and then
I need to get one.
Little
the,
sleeves so that they'll get rammed on. It's a Pathfinder, they ring events.
Yep.
Gotta make sure it's on the sleeves so they don't get wet.
the other thing
The other one's going to say eligible, and then if you have, so like I said, have had issues where if there is a drive record, they will not be eligible to drive children. Does that mean that they can't drive children? That's one thing you have to talk about conference. Is, you know, kind of like what would their limitations be in those kinds of instances. But if they've had, I think you can see the last 3 years, 2 or 3 incidents in the last 3 years, they cannot drive children in any instance. So you have to have this, and then.
one other thing for that.
Yeah.
If you have kids who are 17 going on 18, as soon as they turn 18,
It is required.
it is required. Even if they're still acting as a Pathfinder, the TLT leadership position, they haven't moved on to the next portion, they still have to do birthday, Sterling, report, and then that has to go into your records, even if they're still acting as a Pathfinder. So, just something to think about.
One of the things we're required to as a club have is a for all events. So this is a functional one, this is a functional one, this is actually one gets off, and one of you gets to have it and have a. All the basics are in there. A lot of the things on here. There are a couple things missing. Specifically, aloe vera gel is really hard to find in the winter. I did not know that. Till I tried to find.
I have a whole jar of it.
Couldn't find. Well, I was trying to find it.
Oh, I was like, I don't. Oh, I was
I
like,
have some big ones. I have some big ones at home. I could have, you know, I'm not sure if it fit in. They're unopened. But, so yeah, they recommend like aloe vera gel. But other than that, these are kind of some of the things that they want you to have: ace bandage wraps, aloe vera gel, antacids, antibiotic ointments, which is going to be like Neosporin. Anti-diarrhea medication, aspirin or ibuprofen, Band-Aids, assorted sizes, eye wash solution, gauze bandages, gauze pads, laxative, moleskins. Do you know how many people get blisters from their shoes when they're marching in their Class A uniform? Especially the girls, because they wear sometimes the most ridiculous shit. And I'm like, why are you trying to march in that? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I guess. Personal prescriptions. This is not your responsibility. This is their parents' responsibility, but it is your responsibility at handoff to make sure that they have it. Okay? So that's going to be one of those things. Hey, you know that you have a child who has medical issues. Handoff is happening. Parent, before you head out, do I have what's necessary? And then what's our communication? Are you going to be available if I need to call you, etc. Scissors, sunscreen, feminine products.
Preach it.
Okay.
Please, yes.
You never know. Tape. You can also use the bandage wrap that has the natural adhesive to it, or I guess not natural, but the adhesive. So it's sometimes that's easier than the cloth tapes. And then tweezers, splinters, all different kinds of things. Fiberglass. We had kids playing with tip holes once, and some of them are made out of that fiberglass, and they get stuck in their fingers, and that's really painful.
Huh.
So those can be some of the important things to have. And then making sure that they are in a waterproof case. You would not imagine what can happen to medical supplies when they get exposed to water or high humidity and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to go on to CPR and first aid. It is a requirement for master guides to be current when you finish. So that's what the NAD put out. So that, I mean, if you take it now, that's fine, but if you're not quite done in that 2 years, then you get to the 3rd year, it needs to be completed. Current when you finish your master guide. So just be aware of that if you're planning on taking it. And then it is strongly recommended for all staff members to have the training if you have the ability to. First aid you can usually do through a computer class. American Heart Association offers it through a computer class. Watch a video, answer questions. It's done. If you have your Pathfinders take that, you may want to have a staff kind of be there and go, hey, you know, pay attention. Let's actually understand what we're learning. I know in one of the classes, they were talking about a potential stroke victim, and they told on the class, I swear to you, to go up to somebody that they were worried was potentially having a stroke and ask the person next to them if they were normal. To which I told the kids, please don't do that.
Are you normal?
That may come across
No.
really wrong.
Is it normal, or are they just like, are they always like that? Do they always look like that? Just damn.
I told the kids, you know, I would say, you know, things like, hey, is this usual? You know, if you're concerned, you can go up and say, hey, I was a little concerned. And then they have like different kinds of things you can do, like asking them to say something, raising their arms. So they go through that, but I did kind of tell the kids, please don't go up and ask people if they're normal, because it's not going to
Smile for me.
You may get a variety of responses.
Yeah.
All right, so these are some of the questions we're going to go through. I'll read this, and then you have the answers. You guys can tell me what you guys think, and then we'll go on to the answers. For long trips, the recommended length of time a driver should drive in one stretch is what?
2,000 miles.
3 or 4 hours.
It's like,
I don't know.
have they been like, no,
Affected by the crazy kid things.
it's like, I know mine is
I
like
was gonna
3
say 3 or
hours.
So
4
the answer
hours.
is going to be 3
Yeah.
hours. You're ensure that there's sufficient drivers so that nobody is required to drive more than 3 hours at a stretch.
You're kidding me.
Right, so in the event of an accident, whose insurance will be considered as primary and whose insurance will be considered as secondary.
Your insurance is considered primary.
Is there a second?
Correct. So volunteers insurance is primary, Adventist risk management is secondary up to $3 million. And then there's a section where, like, if the church owns vehicles, those coverages aren't necessarily completely on you. In event of an injury during a Pathfinder activity where the parent of the injured child is able to take him or her to the emergency room, the parents should be given a form. Do any of you know what the form is called?
No.
It's also something you might want to have in your booklet that you keep with you.
Boy.
Because if they have to go, they have to have this form. This is called a miscellaneous accident coverage form. The coverage is secondary. So the parent's insurance is going to be primary. That is why it is included on the form. You have their information, insurance information. And so if there is no insurance, then a letter is provided stating that they do not have coverage. You would need to have that so you can submit that to the conference.
And we would get that form from NAD.
NAD has the miscellaneous accident
Okay.
coverage form.
See, I haven't seen that on the Montana.
It's not on the Montana one. I think they have 4 or 5 forms on there. There's not
There's
all of them.
nothing, like, yeah, okay.
You have like the basic club application, you have the
Right.
individual. Yeah, it's,
So NAD website.
NAD has it. Tongue bite. The following methods of discipline are appropriate to use in correcting inappropriate behaviors. We did talk about this a little bit. These are your options. You need to sit down until you calm down. Don't make me hurt you. Administer a sharp slap on their hand or none of the above. It is not your role or responsibility to administer discipline. A. So we use physical or punishment, which may escalate the situation. We should never use these types of disciplines. Timeouts, a moment with God may be helpful at redirecting the behavior under acceptable disciplines.
Do you need to go have a moment with God for a moment over that corner?
Okay, so this is something I discussed earlier with somebody. I was in a training once, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, in which the person teaching said that when she had a child in trouble, she would walk them over to a pew, in which the picture of Jesus, above it, and she would tell them that Jesus was watching you, and she would sit them down in this chair. So that's not our job. Or not just trauma. I'm a little embarrassed to say that because unfortunately I don't have somebody in a Pathfinder group. I do hope so. Somebody to trust that. But that's not our job at all. Rules designed to protect you and your ministry against charges of abuse include all of the except for one. Volunteer screening rule, a 21-year-old rule, the 6-month rule, the 2-person rule, and the last one is going to go over some of these earlier.
What's the 21-year-old?
Correct. Yes. The 21-year-old rule is false. The volunteer screening is required. The NCS risk, we've gone over that. 6-month rule is not encouraged to recruit volunteers who potentially have not been known to members if you've not known them for at least 6 months. The 2-person rule, make sure that there are at least 2 people, adults present, staff members with children at all times. And then the glass window rule is make sure that the door you have has a glass window, or you keep that door open anytime children or teaching or something. All right. So if you were to become aware of a child that may have been or may be a victim of child abuse, most states have legal requirements to support report such suspicions. In addition to this, a supervising adult needs to A, B, or C, or D.
Will it be C and A?
Anybody else?
All of it.
All of the above. All of the above. D. Any or all of the above. Okay, so the reason that a church clerk potentially involved or more specifically conference is because of insurance.
Okay, that's what tripped me up. I'm like, why would you tell the treasurer?
Because it's usually, it usually
I didn't think about the insurance.
Sometimes that will be a conference
Insurance-wise,
treasurer.
yeah.
And sometimes that's gonna be like risk management, child protective safety, depending on what you.
Insurance-wise, would you tell them they handle the money?
Yep. So in regard to fire safety and campfires, identify the full statement. This may surprise some of you. Okay. The use of fluid fuel fire starters for a campfire is prohibited. Okay, this might be surprising because a lot of people have probably seen some type of liquid fuel starter being.
Why would you use that to start a campfire with?
big fire, big fire, big fire.
Pyromaniacs.
So A is required, C, the other one that they're talking about, is C is not allowed. So the reason C would not be answered is just because any kind of complaint, they're not allowed at the campsite anyways.
We're not a luau. We're not a luau's.
So the 15-foot rule is not existent, they're just not allowed. Choose the false statement. Conference accident information, insurance is designed to be a primary coverage. Conference accident insurance has 10,000 lives per benefit. 50 passenger vans may not be used for any great reason. They're charged club liability or
D. No. For false statements.
we already kind of went over this.
False statements.
False statement would be.
Oh, that's a true statement.
Choose the false statement? Okay.
The 15-passenger van.
We've.
A.
I would say
A.
I would see
So
A.
this is gonna be A. Conference
Design
accident
primary
is only
concern.
designed to be used as a secondary insurance.
Yep.
Okay. True or false regarding the policies of asking a child's permission before physically touching him or her. One exception to this rule exists when treating a child's injury. Permission to touch or uncover clothing is implied. Therefore, first asking permission to touch in this situation is not needed. True or false? True or false?
False.
Child should be asked every single time before anything, even if it's help or. So this becomes a question. The only exception to touching the person would be in the loss of consciousness.
And they can't tell
You cannot get a verbal response from them. That would be the only exception to that. True or false? All honors offered by the North American Division or Pathfinders are approved and covered by the local conference insurance.
No.
Do you know specifically which ones might not be?
Anything extreme.
Yeah, it's usually those.
Yeah.
Now, I heard, it's on that list now,
It's like
potentially.
anything that's like necessarily not, you know.
So to check this, you would contact conference, and they can tell you if there's something that's potentially not covered. So inform you in an event that you're doing, they need additional coverage.
You mean, hey, it's without permission.
Like when we had this exam, I tell them, even though we're doing it took them all day that day. I mean, all day Thursday. They got me to me way later, Larissa said, all day. And she called me and said, I got it. I said, sorry. But anyways.
Avidus Risk Management requires minimum automobile liability and medical payment insurance. The recommendation from ARM is that volunteer drivers have what dollar amount for liability coverage?
$30,000.
Million.
It's in the millions.
It is be surprised. It's actually more of a normal coverage than most people think. So the
100,000.
is going to be, so theirs is 3 million. Their secondary, yours is the primary. This is the recommended that they have if you're going to use personal vehicles. Who is responsible for any comprehensive or collision deductibles that may apply to damage done to a borrowed vehicle? A, the driver, B, the owner, or C, this needs to be determined between the parties, preferably beforehand. So, according to the conference, this needs to be decided. Now, legally, yes, the owner is responsible, regardless of who the owner is responsible. Is their insurance and therefore their coverage. The NAD likes that we try to maybe discuss this ahead of time if you're going to be borrowing a vehicle. They also say that maybe borrowing a great idea. So that's a choice to take up and decide if that's something that you want to.
What about rentals?
So rentals, we do have, I'll go over that in a little bit, but there are restrictions on what can be.
It's like, they can, I'm like, hey, rent a 15-passenger van to take them somewhere, so we're not driving like 4 or 5 cars.
So usually in rentals, they're gonna require that you have the additional comprehensive that you can get on a rental vehicle in addition to your normal driver's insurance.
Nothing passenger, van passenger, outbound.
Illegal, there's been too many incidents.
Yeah,
So 12 passengers are fine, but 15 passengers are.
yeah.
Complete the statement, providing excellent supervision is the best way to prevent.
Small.
Not to prevent those. We just went over this. What passenger van is specifically identified in the policy not to purchase, borrow, rent. 15 passenger vans. Yeah. There's been too many incidents. They have not been determined to be safe for transporting people and are prohibited.
Question. Car seats, cause
With adventurers.
with adventurers, most of my little guys are not hitting that weight or height. Do we have their, say a mom or dad drops them off, and they have a booster seat, but their weight says they should be in a booster.
Montana just adjusted the car seat loss. I want to say
Okay.
I have to go look at make sure that it was right when.
Yeah, because it's like, I know my daughters are like at that cutoff where they could still be in a high back booster, but
Okay, so
they're in a regular.
there is only 2 according to Montana State for legals now. We know that there's a difference between a high back booster, but if they're in the booster stage, which is not a
Buy back with? Okay.
or a seated booster, at least according to
Okay,
whether
that's
we feel that one is safer.
I thought legally off-campus activities for adventurers have to have a parent with them.
They are supposed to be them, even church events.
That's what yeah.
So all of it.
All of it.
So
It's a little bit.
so adventurers, you can just have your.
Okay.
Transport,
That's your easiest answer.
Okay,
Is
parents just.
adventurers,
The
they have to
only
be.
case would be if, let's say you have a family that's potentially sharing a vehicle. And if you can't, one parent can't be there, they're gonna drop them off, and then we have to go do something. In that instance, I would just say be up to date on the car seat laws for.
That's what I was thinking, is like, cause I know sometimes one of our little guys, brothers in Pathfinder, so dad has to drop off, and so we've, you know, he's left us with us, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've got room, I've got an extra car seat, I'll bring him home, I'll bring him back to the meeting.
This becomes, I'm the one driving, and therefore it is my responsibility to make sure that your child is legal.
Okay.
So then you would say, hey, this is the requirement for this age, I would like you to have this kind of car seat if I'm going to.
Okay.
So the thing too, you gotta watch with that is that your insurance only covers the duration of the meeting. As soon as it's over, it's over.
Well, you got till 7:30, I'm gonna get your butts back to the church before insurance expires.
All right, so the use of mobile or cell phones is not allowed when driving as a volunteer. Is there an exception to this rule, and if so, what is it?
I would say no.
You may think it's yes?
No.
The only exception would be using a hands-free option to call emergency services when pulling to the side of the road would be safe or not safe or ill-advised due to time-sensitive injuries. Okay, so like we're talking about, if you're on the way to the ER, a Pathfinder or adventurer, which hopefully adventurers, you'll have parents there anyway so they can take them. But in that instance, it is, say, not safe. Like say you're in super icy conditions and there's nowhere safe to pull off the road. If you are using hands-free, say your car and fall, you can use a hands-free device and call as you're driving. Otherwise, you are required to pull off. You need to use yourself.
Hopefully you have somebody with you and there's a driver and somebody that's watching a child that's needing to talk.
So if you have
Should be the
In
case,
most cases, you
but
should at least be able to have 2 staff members, so with that person, you would ask the volunteer to do the calling for you.
Because technically you're not supposed to be with a child by themselves.
Yep,
Unless it's your own child and you're driving them to the ER.
yep. Your Pathfinders want to do the following activities this year. Which activities are completely excluded from coverage and is prohibited? Choose all the correct answers.
Bungee jumping, trampoline, and all-terrain vehicles?
All of them?
They haven't taken away mountain biking, have they?
Please don't say all of them.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute, if they've taken mountain biking away, I'm gonna be crushed.
So,
Trampoline.
insurance will not allow us to do all-terrain vehicles, trampoline, or bungee jumping.
That is so not cool.
I get all-terrain and bungee jumping, but
Trampoline
it's
has had a lot of
I
broken
get
arms.
that because trampolines, it's like the #1 ER visit for kids.
They fly off and
Oh,
Yeah,
you have the
Okay, so
collarbone
like-
or
it's
the upper.
#1 injury.
I guess I haven't had a trampoline since my little ones were little, and they have that one that has the bar that they can hold on to.
The exercisers.
Yeah, the exercisers. I'm like, that's the last time we had a trampoline in our house.
All right, so complete the statement. Daytime visitors to a camporee are required to do all of the following prior to the registration deadline. Be approved by the club director, added to the club's adult staff list by their director, complete and clear what, and
Background.
purchase a day pass if required.
Background.
Sterling.
Yep. So that's gonna be between the verified volunteers and for those of you who do also, and I would recommend the code of conduct, that also be signed, as well as the NCS risk. All right, all the requirements about volunteer drivers are true except 21 minimum age. They must have a valid driver's license. They must have no fault accidents in the last 3 years. They must register to obtain liability.
See. D?
Correct. D, we're not required to get armed for driving. We have our own insurance that becomes primary, and then the conferences become secondary, and that's already done. So all the other points are valid. They must be 21 before they can drive. Pathfinders or adventurers around, they must carry a valid driver's license, and they must have no more than 2 traffic citations and no fault accidents in the last 3 years. The club should also maintain a current driver's license copy and proof of insurance for any volunteer drivers.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
School's required to do that. I don't remember.
Yeah. All right, so your Pathfinders want to address the following activities, or add the following activities this year, which activity are not necessarily automatically covered under insurance.
Rock climbing and kayaking.
Just rock climbing.
Oh. I would think,
Is welding something that's covered, or is that something I need to look into?
I have not heard that it's not. The only thing with welding would be potentially doing a waiver of release.
Right.
Just because the potential of injury, especially to the eyes in welding when we are not necessarily so careful, or burns that can happen, that becomes potentially an issue. You can also, like said,
Like a
with the other
permission
one,
slip type deal before we, yeah.
yeah,
The other
to
thing
remedy
that goes with
liability.
welding is the amount protective gear that you have to have. You have.
Yeah, there's a
10
lot of
kids
requirements to have.
that you're
Yes.
going to try and get them through welding.
What about the derby car building? 'Cause I know I know they handle saws and stuff like that.
It's
Who
covered.
handles the sauce?
I know sometimes they have, some of our kids had access to little saws.
Your coping sauce and stuff like that, unless they're the teen pathfinders, or through the junior pathfinders, they need to have the belts cut the cars out for them, and then they can work on the sanding and everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to check on that.
So, and this is where like we have the levels in our honors, like 1, 2, 3. So sometimes they'll just buy like the kits at the beginning.
I think
For like
that-
friends as they're doing it. Sometimes then they'll progress to building it themselves. And I mean, it depends obviously on every club, but yeah.
Cause I know we go to Josh's
Sharp
house
knives,
and do it.
band saws, things like that. Yeah, no little things.
I don't
should not be
think
near
we
those.
do, I don't think we do those. I think it's like,
So the ones that come
details.
sometimes with the kits,
Yeah.
they're really tiny. They're also not sharpened very well.
Okay.
So those might be considered slightly safer, and then should be obviously by the teens, the older, who have
Okay.
been instructed on potentially safe when you're handling a sharp object.
Okay, that's what it's like, those are the ones, we're talking about band saws, I'm like talking like those.
But, so if you're unsure about any of your events, conference should have that information
Okay.
for you.
Yeah, 'cause I wanna make sure my adventures are safe in the coming months since we will be doing pine car
And that would be
rides.
calling, because there's been some misunderstandings in who you call, so that might be calling conference and actually asking to see somebody who deals with risk management. They're gonna have more
It used to be Jim.
the information.
Business management?
It should be
Robert?
the one who's, what's her name?
Larissa,
Yes.
is she doing that now?
From what I understood, she's handling some of it.
Okay.
Or at least like under her, and then the other parts. Anyway, so that's who I would talk to you about that.
Okay.
What form must be taken to all Pathfinder activities where a parent is not present?
Medical form,
Permission, medical.
rural health and medical form.
Health and medical record form. Yeah. On that, they could potentially have permission and things like that.
Which is funny because if my Pathfinders had done anything or adventures had done anything, they wouldn't have been covered because I have all
And
the
in some
forms.
cases, that's also going to be potentially.
I have all the forms right there.
Things like that from different kinds of events.
They wouldn't have had any of their coverages of like.
Yeah, we're done with that one. Okay. So, see if there was anything else that they wanted us to go over. Oh, no, there was something I kind of wanted to, your first aid kits, you can add to. For me, just because we deal with all kinds of accidents, I would add something called potentially a SAM splint to your kit.
Done deal.
It works in place of like trying to use 2 sticks to hold somebody with broken bone
They are
together.
so awesome.
I'm like, is that one of the
We
things?
added that
like,
to the
Sam? No,
school
like,
kit.
like I was listening to going, Sam, I'm like, is that the one where you do the 2-stick thing?
Yeah.
A snake bite kit,
Yes.
if you're in potential areas where that, emergency blankets,
Bear
hot
spray.
hands, safety pins, charcoal,
I was gonna
which can
say
be used,
charcoal.
or like a bee sting kit, things like that. Those can all
Cayenne
be
pepper.
used.
And it can be used for the food too.
Lots of cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm lost on the cayenne pepper besides seasoning.
Bleeding.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
It's a coagulant, so you can put it on bleeding and stop bleeding.
Okay.
We've done that with nosebleeds.
We need to probably update our chart, our kit.
I also keep things like Manuka honey in mind. This one has specific burn patches in it, but for my own kids, yes.
I wouldn't use burn patches. Don't use anything with the burn ointments, or do anything with the burns, just feel wet gauze, and that's it.
So, yeah,
If
and that
unsure-
changes, by the way, constantly. I think the most recent recommendation in first aid is to put a dry bandage on it.
It depends on what burn it is.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
We're getting technical.
Yeah. But
How about we just find the nearest EMT that's in our group? Sorry, no.
Carry your medical along with your
The
bag.
whole thing with the burns is that you gotta stop the burning process. and
Yeah.
Put a cream
Correct.
on it, it will hold that in.
you ask some of the old timers and they'll tell you to put butter on it.
Yeah. You don't wanna put anything on the burns other than just like a moist gauze that cools it down.
So dropping them in water like they've done in the past, it's like, oh, you burn your hand, you stick it under cold water?
Well, that just helps with the,
That can help slow, stop the burn, the damage
Okay, like
that's already
like
occurred.
that's still.
cause it's still burning and whatever it is, and if it's like a dry chemical burn, you wanna try and wipe off whatever it is before you.
If they're getting into dry chemicals, you are in the wrong
Trouble.
water.
Well, I'm just saying, they just get into things or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
They do.
you know.
Yep.
You'd just be surprised.
Quicker than you know.
But, and then if they get stung by a bee, the stinger, we'll try and find the stinger.
Come out.
So don't pinch it, try and take it hard, scrape it.
Yeah, because it'll start.
Lovely. I'm
Yeah, we're
glad
gonna
she's
do
in
this,
my
but
club,
before
that
we
way
do
I don't
this,
have to worry about it.
Sometimes, especially with the younger ones, just showing that you emotionally care when they're hurt, whether that's providing a Band-Aid, whether they actually need it or not, whether that's giving them an ice to put on their head because their head hurts. Sometimes it's the emotional care that fixes the issue
Yeah.
more so than the physical care.
Yeah, I went through a whole box of Band-Aids over the summer, just
Yep.
because they were Disney,
Awesome.
because they
They
she's great.
fixed all the owies. That's
They
They
do.
they fixed all our.
You're not being biased or
Pick the right one though.
If you don't pick the right one, you're in trouble.
So funny.
Susan Schultz.
Guys get to have it.
Today's your lucky day.
You're the next contestant on.
Because I don't even have a case like that.
Well, see, if I had one, I was gonna give it to somebody, cause I'm like, they're in my club, so I'm
I'm
just
like,
like, I know
this
I
is
have
awesome
one.
because we don't have a Pathfinder
That's
one,
perfect,
so.
that's the best
It's
one.
like,
you.
I was like, if I had one, I was gonna give it to you or them. I'm like, I was like, I know we have one in our
That's what
club.
we're here for. We're trying to help you all be prepared for anything that could potentially, obviously, we can only do so much, but we're trying to help you. And like Dave mentioned multiple times, you're welcome to reach out to any of us if you have questions, you want to talk about things. I get to tell people like, hey, I've got a lot of honors prepared. If you want, some assistance with them, let me know. I'm happy to either help out or send some of my supplies. So like when we do like rescue, I have like, in basic rescue, one of the things they talk about is making your own rock climbing harness. In case there was an instance where you don't have a rock climbing harness, that somebody's potentially been injured in a rock climbing incident. So we teach them how to build one from a rope. So I have all those ropes
Come
and the
visit us.
carabiners and,
That's awesome.
teaching them how to build it, so. Yeah,
That's
feel
definitely
free to
It's
reach
the
out.
same knot.
What?
I said aerosol, it's the same knot.
Yeah, he's ruined his knees, jumping out of helicopters.
Love it.
So, that's a lot of that kind of training. Would somebody like to close us with prayer? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Jesus, for this day. Thank you that we have a good day today. And thank you for all the stuff that we learned today. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. Any other questions from anyone?
No, cause I can pick your brain at home.
Okay.